The data center industry is moving faster than ever, and behind the scenes, some seriously smart people are making it all happen. Welcome to the Inside Data Center podcast, where we dive into the stories, insights, and innovations driving real change across the industry. From hyperscale campuses to game-changing technologies, we're talking to the people shaping the future of digital infrastructure. Whether you live and breathe data centers or just want to understand what's powering our connected world, you're in the right place.
Right, so talking about the early days, how did the idea of the community start?
I always wanted to start a community. I thought there was a massive opportunity in the industry for a community, mainly because...
And we're talking about the data center.
The data center club, yeah. And mainly because people always phoned me or messaged me saying, Andy, do you know someone that could do this? Or do you know someone that could do that? And I used to think, it shouldn't be so difficult for them to find these people. Yeah, obviously I've got a good network. I've been in the industry a long time, so I've got a good network, but it's not like it's a secret source. It's more, if they ask me, do you know a really good marketing person, they should be able to find you. You know, it's not, they shouldn't have to ask me.
Yeah.
So that was the idea behind it, to make a community that's access for everyone. And then the idea of Data Center Club came about.
Did you immediately think about LinkedIn as a...
Yeah, well, LinkedIn is the easy way to just bring, obviously my network's LinkedIn, which helps, but it's the easy way to bring people together. And I wanted to start a group, and that was where the Data Center Club group came from, and that's now up to, I think it's just under 8,000 members.
Yeah, so you started this like an experiment, right? But now we have a community of nearly 100,000 people,
Too many,
if not more.
Yeah.
When did you realize that this was really becoming something serious?
I still don't realise it's becoming something serious. I think that's part of the problem for me until
it is serious for all of us.
Until people come up to me and they say, oh, Data Center Club, I love that idea. That's when you start to realise it's. I guess when I launched it and it snowballed pretty quick, I thought I'm onto something here, and I still get, I use the tagline, are you in? And I still get people saying I'm in. And the early days kind of made me understand what it could become, but I'm still nowhere near along the journey of what will it become. I think I'm still learning.
Tell me about the newsletter. I mean, that's a critical point of the community, and quite frankly, I look forward every Friday to get the newsletter in the morning. So is it something you started immediately with the community, or that was just like a second step? I
think I started posting news on Fridays years ago, like on my feed. And then somebody said to me, you should do it as a newsletter. I thought, that's a good idea. And I can't remember the date. It's probably about 3 years ago, I'd say. So it's pre-Data Center Club. Mm-hmm. It's before Data Center Club. And again, as the industry's grown, the newsletter's grown. I've got nearly over 50,000 subscribers now, which seems crazy. And it's something that, like you say, the industry relies on. And I feel that pressure every Friday morning when I'm panically writing it after a busy week.
Which also brings the question, how do you decide what kind of news you want to share with the rest of the community versus the one that maybe don't simply deserve any attention?
I've always focused on like big announcements, so whether that's construction projects, capital investment. So I've always done that, but I've also always tried to incorporate articles that are, I guess, thought-provoking, that are sharing different stories. So you'll see in my newsletter negative articles on the industry. I won't just show the positive, I'll show the difference in opinions, because I think it's important that people can formulate their opinion based on everything that's out there. There's pros and cons to everything depending on the way you look at it, and I think what I've tried to do is share the holistic view of the industry so people can read both sides of the story and formulate their own opinion.
And that brings me to another point, which is reputation. I think don't you think you have a responsibility at this point, considering the community you have, in terms of how much you can drive eventually the reputation of the data center industry?
I think I do feel it more as a responsibility now than I did, but again, it's unintentional. So I do feel sometimes, I get some people message me saying, why didn't I include their article? It could have been I just didn't see it. Like it's just, I can't see everything. Or if I look at products, I don't really include products because it would just become too much. It's not a choice. It's more of what the newsletter was when I started. It's just grown from there, and there's a limit to what you can include in it. So I've tried to focus on the same areas. Even now, I'm sure if I went back, it feels like the newsletter is getting longer and longer than it was 2 years ago.
Well, and that's the way the industry works.
Exactly, right? And some weeks you look at North America and it'll just go on and on and on and on forever. So it's difficult, and you could just keep going and keep going. So I guess what I try and include is the big news,
Yeah.
try and find all the big news, whether it's big investment, big projects, whatever it might be. And then the other interesting articles is just like if it's thought-provoking, or if I read it and I learned something, and I think someone else,
that makes sense.
someone else,
And
might
that's
learn.
the digital part of it. And then you also added the physical aspect of it, because we have like in-person kind of meeting and gathering, right? How did it came to your mind, to create those kind of events?
I think a community has to have physical, doesn't it? I guess post-COVID we became more physical events became more important.
Sometimes I tend to forget those 2 years.
Yes,
But,
horrendous stuff. And I think as AI comes in, it's going to be even more important. Physical connection is going to be what we've got, isn't it? That's what we're going to be doing. Technology will do a lot of the rest, but physical connection.
That's true.
And I think the demand was there, and more people want it. And if you've got a community, it has to be connected. I don't think you can obviously have an online community, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted a physical connection. And I was chatting to Paul Hammer, and he said about doing data center club nights, and obviously we met at
which is where we met
one in London
a couple of years
a
ago.
few years back. We've had them in Bahrain, Singapore, Sydney, Zurich, all over the world. But they're driven by an individual in that area. It's not me. Like, obviously London was us, but a lot of the time it's somebody in that region saying, look, I'd like to get a little group of people together. Can I use your brand? Yeah, of course. So that's the whole idea.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
use the brand, launch it. Data Center Club Night Scotland's become quite a Data Center Club Scotland.
And then now we have also some kind of spin-offs like the Data Center Marketing Club.
Yeah.
Tell me something about how did you start, and
I think
what's the future for this kind of mini spin-off of the main
world. Well, Data Center Marketing Club was you, obviously asking me for a coffee and saying I'd like to start a marketing community, and that's what it takes. It takes someone passionate about their specialism or their niche to drive it, and then you use the community to bring people together.
Have you got requests from other functions or people?
We're looking at one in sort of talent, so people around
That would be
HR,
interesting,
talent acquisition, try and get people collaborating in that world. But it's a very difficult world to get people to collaborate in when they're all fighting for the same talent. So it's trying
That's also true.
That's a challenge. But we've looked at loads of different ones. I think there's value. You could have a community, I think, in every niche. I think it's just, is that possible? Is it sustainable? And you need somebody really to drive it. I think it's important that like Marketing Club works because you're in marketing. You understand the challenges. I think I couldn't start one on engineering. You need an engineer to really drive it. And I guess that's...
Yeah, and I think I found one of the main needs for the Data Center Marketing Club being the fact that we are isolated, meaning we are part of small marketing teams, but in a way we are completely isolated from all the other companies. So that is in a way filling.
And I think that's Data Center Club, and it's like its ethos was the whole industry is like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the industry now is pretty collaborative to a degree.
It is becoming more and more.
If you go back 3-4 years, no one even talked to each other. And that was what I've struggled to understand when I go to events, and it was all very siloed, and no one would tell anyone what they were doing, even though everybody knew what everyone else was doing. We just didn't talk about it.
Which is also giving you more responsibilities, right? And now they are driving a so large community at the point that you are considered and properly an influencer. So you are a proper B2B influencer, which is also the reason why you are here in Dublin, right?
In Dublin with you at AVK. Yeah, I think, and again, like, I find I'm very fortunate I get these opportunities like today with you and AVK and Pure. People in my job shouldn't have these opportunities. I'm very fortunate I've got it, but I think I've achieved it because I've always done it with the right ethos. Like my ethos is to share, to collaborate, to help the industry, like promote the industry it's the best industry in the world. I argue with everyone about it, and I think people ask me for like the blueprint. How did you do what you do? Like if I could sell what I've created, I'm sure I'd be a very rich man. But I think it works because it's accidental. And I always say to my children, like they're like, "Are you a creator or an influencer?" I'm like, "Well, in this little world of data centers, I am." But don't worry about it, kids. Doesn't mean anything to you.
And tell me about your plans for the future of the community. I mean, you already did something that, in my opinion, is extremely innovative. For example, the pubcast.
Yeah.
Tell me about the pubcast, but also what you have in mind for the future.
I think the pubcast was, again, we were chatting about it seems like ages ago, but it probably wasn't that long ago, a year ago. And I just wanted to bring people into an environment where they feel comfortable, and that's the guests and the audience. I think one thing I noticed about the pubcast audience was there were some different people there. There were people from other industries that were trying to learn about the sector. There was obviously, some important people from the industry there as well, but it was that environment where everyone, I guess, felt comfortable, and I think that's
Yeah.
a pub, isn't it? Like if you go back to we're in Dublin now, you have
Yes.
the perfect place for pubs. Like pubs are that environment where you can go, sit down with your mates or with your friends, have a chat over a beer, and that's what I wanted to create. And obviously doing it with Rory, who's a good
Yes.
mate anyway from
Yep.
the industry, helps. It gave us that ability to use our friendship to have a bit of a chat with industry veterans, and we definitely want to do more. We're going to do
What
more
else
this year.
do you envision for the community? How this is evolving, in your opinion?
I want to do more physical events, but not events as they are today. I don't want to compete with the event. The events of today are brilliant.
That's not really the case.
Yeah, that's not what I want to do. I want to create informal networking environments where people can learn. People can connect, but they can also go away thinking, I learned something today, not just I saw some good products or I saw a good panel about power. Like they generally where they've learned something, and it might be that it's leadership, or it might be they're learning from a different industry. Like I'm sure, we learned a lot from you from your time outside the industry, bringing it into the industry. And I think that's really important. I think we're a siloed world of data centers, and
I think you are touching also an interesting point. All the new people coming to the industry, they are in a way lost, and they need some kind of center of gravity, and the community can be one.
Yeah, and I think they can bring brilliant ideas.
Oh yes,
because they see it differently. And I think that's what I've learned. Like the people that have come from other industries, they see the challenges totally different. Or they say, actually, we dealt with this challenge before in maritime. This is what we did, and that's what the industry didn't do for years. It was we're data centers, don't come and help us. Whereas now, all these fresh minds are bringing new ideas, but they also want to connect with the people that are in the industry, because it can be difficult to get into that circle. It's much easier now than it was, but so I'd love to create something where that kind of ethos of a community is a bit more physical. What that looks like, I'm open to ideas.
Good. Andy, thank you very much for sharing all this information with me. Thank you.
Thank you for having me in Dublin. Go to the pub.